My name is Phiri, and this is the linkage. Generational links is defined as a group of people born in the same family over a period of 20 to 30 years. It's a beautiful thing. It's where traditions, mannerisms, and even physical attributes are transferred. But did you know that also the negative things of life can be transferred just by virtue of being born in that family? Today in studio, we are joined by Thabang Masheho, a global speaker who will help us unpack generational roots and what they actually mean. Welcome to the linkage, Thabang.
Bye. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure. Truly is a pleasure.
Yes. The roots of generational links. We're facing a lot today in our generation. Do you think have you seen a link between what is happening now and what happened then?
Sure. I think firstly, I'm not here as a expert or a global speaker. I mean, these are profiles that are in the public, but I'm here as someone who has experienced and encountered, generational dysfunctionalities within our family. So I come here as a family member who has gone through 1, disappointments, 2, trauma, 3, atrocities that could potentially identify us to belong to families that link us to history. You know, sometimes when things happen in your life, you have no explanation, you have no answer, but you've got to trace back the steps. From your great-grandfather to your grandmother, what happened and why is it happening to you? And this is what we call a linkage. A linkage is circumstances that connect us, like you're saying, between 20 to 30 generations to come. So they connect us, but they have a root. So it means it started as a root which formed within a soil, and from a soil it grew into something bigger. And that bigger thing that it's grown into today is what we call trauma.
So you're saying that a lot of things that are happening today, especially the negative things in life, like your GBV, your crime, you know, the rate of things that are horrible to human beings, is as a result of a traumatic experience that they knowingly or unknowingly have experienced?
I would say, look, it accounts to a lot of issues. We've got what we call sociology or sociological structures in political terms, where a child is raised either through primary or secondary socialization. So primary socialization, you're raised within a family, and in that family, values and a sense of life is passed on. So your narrative of existence, your narrative of life, your behavior is defined in your primary socialization. And then your secondary socialization is where you go to school, you go to university, you go to different institutions such as churches, the community. Those then also shape and mold your values. So essentially, me saying that it's part of a lot of factors. It's not just things that have happened within your family, but it's also a belief system that a family has carried over time. So for example, if you had a great-grandfather who was, for example, an alcoholic, and you were not aware of the cravings of alcoholism, you don't know where it comes from. It comes from that because it's something that has been spiritually but genetically transferred to you. So you're right that a lot of the atrocities and a lot of the pain that we encounter in society and within our families come, from generations before. But yet again, let's talk about the good things. Yes. People think that you need to have an MBA to start a business, and I say no. The first thing you need to do is check what are the generational actors or the agencies that played in my life. So for example, if your great-grandfather was a trader, Arikisa, Mazimba, Discopas and all of that, right? That's a skill. It's something that you are born with, right? And all of a sudden you realize 7 generations later, you have a passion for entrepreneurship and you don't know where it comes from. And then society says, no, you need to study, you need to do this so that you can define it within certain parameters, but absolutely not. It's already in you because it's a gene. And this is why usually in our trainings we'll say that, there are 3 things that we are born with. We are born with personality traits which come from our parents. It's in scientific terms, it's called chromosomes. 23 from your mother, 23 from your father. And this is why I often say, no matter how abandoned or rejected you've been by a parent, thank God that they gave birth to you, because you probably have personality or character traits that no other person would have given you, but they gave you. So those personality traits are shaped and formed by, our genes. And this is why sometimes in a hospital they'd ask you, do you have diabetes in your family, or do you have, it comes through the blood. So generational linkages have a blood transfer. Hey, Lord, this is so deep for me, and it's speaking to me because blood is life and blood speaks, right? So it means there are things that have happened in our past that are speaking now in the 21st century. Things that happened eons ago in your family that are speaking in your present. And and this is why we need wisdom and we need strategy to dissect where certain things that we are dealing with come from and why certain things happen in our family. For example, I had a client, just closing on this point, who had an issue of, they were having a lot of accidents. And it was so funny. They realized that their great-grandfather, in fact, let me start by saying, this client of mine went through capable homicide. So capable homicide, we know, is when you kill a person, but not deliberately. It was not intentional, right? Maybe you didn't see them, but it happens that you had an accident with a person. So I'm talking about the issue of blood. Blood that speaks and blood that is shed rather. Until she decided to deal with this thing at the accidents, she then learned that her great-grandfather had also killed a person. But it was in error, so it was also not deliberate. We're speaking about bloodlines here. I don't want to reveal their surname, but I'm going to use different surnames here. Usually we say abagankosi, known as kings, but I'm using it in the context of a surname. Abagankosi nabagatwala cannot marry because the twalas are known to succumb to things in life. They're known to carry. That's the true definition of the surname twala, ugutwala, to carry things. So if you are a Nkosi woman who's married to a twala man, where do we talk about submission in the discussion? Because I can't give you a responsibility as a twala man. You are used to carrying things. So I can't trust you as a Nkosi woman to lead me, in the family, because you're used to just carrying things. You submit to things. So as a man, if I'm supposed to submit to you, I can't submit to you because you're not used to leading vision. You are used to carrying vision. Yo, I done preach to myself. I'm speaking about the issue of blood. She goes back and she discovers that her great-grandfather had killed a person who, genealogy-wise, or rather from an aspect of culture, they were clashing. Like I used the Twala and Nkosi example, they clashed. So it was a similar situation where this person's surname and this person's clan clashed. So what happened is she, or rather her great-grandfather, had killed a person belonging to the clan that they clashed with. Do you get what I'm saying? Now blood was spilled there. Years later, when she had an accident, she realized that it's the same person belonging to the clan that her great-grandfather killed. Blood speaks. Generational linkages speak. So how did they have to deal with that conflict or absolve the issues between the clans? They had to sort of come to terms with the fact that, okay, so it means ka ditaelo tsa lona or ngeithakazelo zakini, we're going to mention or we're going to acknowledge you as people that we are forming a relationship with. And this is how they resolved. And I mean, pre-colonial Africa is an Africa that followed spirituality in another aspect. We didn't have Christianity at the time because Christianity came as a colonial tool, just like capitalism and commercialization. So at the time, for you, like in Zulu, they say ukushweleza, they had to use an animal to slaughter an animal, just like in the Old Testament, you know, animal represented some kind of sacrifice. And that's how it was kind of closed. But my point in this, Vi, is it's very important to know that wherever you're going, start with where you come from. Because where you come from defines a lot of the aspects or challenges or even victories that you can deal with going forward in life.
This is deep.
It really is.
What happens when someone is born in a family of, let's say, wealthy doctors, and for some reason they turn to be into crime or become something totally different from the family that they were born in? What happens there?
Very interesting. Have you ever heard of the term called the black sheep of the family?
Yes, yes.
Or the scapegoat of the family? The person in the family who you deem as misaligned, not parallel to the mission and objectives of this family. What's wenya? Too much. That person is the black sheep of the family. What you see as misbehavior is the person carrying the generational baggage in the family. So, and this is why wisdom and understanding is important, because we deem them as the other. In politics, we call it politics of the other. This is why I don't believe in calling, like, let's not put terms to things and people. Do we go around, for example, saying, oh, by the way, Violet, you are in a heterosexual relationship and marriage. You're married to a man as a woman. So why do we go around saying, oh, you are homosexual or you are gay? It's politics of the other. We are segregating and separating people to what we deem as normative in society. Politics of the other. It's exactly the same principle in our families. We other people that we think, no, they don't fit in. Hey, oh, na, hey, hulale, the lobola negotiations, otlo senya, oh, and chances are they will. But have you interrogated why they are encountering that? Because they are the black sheep of the family. One way or another, there's got to be a sacrifice. So the life and the purpose of that person has been sacrificed for the sake of others to live. And how do we look at that sacrifice? How do we see it? We might not understand it, but it's there. We don't know why this person drinks too much. We don't know why this person is a rebel in the family. We don't know why this person is the other in the family. They are unconventional. But the reason why they were chosen to be the black sheep is because they are more strong enough spiritually to carry and to handle it. So what we do, we insult them because they're not good enough. They don't fit to our standards. Yeah. They don't fit to our standards as doctors in the family. Or as it's exactly the same as a child who is, let's say, is the middle child or is the last born. Everybody's educated. When you're a dropout, you decided to do business. No matter how successful you might be,
they will still see
you as a failure because you're not like the others. Yeah, who's a doctor, who's a lawyer. So generational linkages is about blood that speaks. Blood is life. And this is why, this is so deep for me. This is why there are emergency births in family. You find a child that is just born prematurely at 7 months, but everybody just warms up to this child. He's come to change the anatomy and the system of the generational linkages. He's come to decode and recode. And this is why there are pregnancies that are necessary in our families. There are births that are mandatory in our families because they've got to decode and recode some of our generational challenges that we deal with.
So, Taban, do you believe in generational curses and how can we break them?
I believe in generational curses in the context of errors that have been made in our family that were not fixed. That's the context. I don't believe in generational curses because I don't believe God, Amata Umvilingangi, who is a genderless God, can create you with atrocities, because remember, he creates you to fulfill a mission, or for a mission to be fulfilled. So you can't fulfill a mission with distractions. It's going to be very difficult. Where do those distractions come from? They come from what we call colonial sovereignty. Colonization and apartheid are social policies that were created in a sense of saying we are institutionalizing racial segregation. So we are institutionalizing the ideology that black is inferior and white is superior. The remnants of that ideology is what I call a curse. Because what we are dealing with in our families is identity issues. We've got identity crises in our family. The fact that Oromangwana ayeskolong alokrea mereko for your benefit is a problem. You don't provide the child with tools to shape what God has called them to be. Instead, you are putting them in a system that was taught and forged onto you through apartheid and colonialism. That it is a articulated and a self-inflicted curse, right? But the ones where we look at our lineages and our generation, there are errors that our forefathers did that we are suffering for. There are callings they never attested to, or callings they never answered. There are things they were supposed to do that they didn't do. Some of them didn't even fulfill what they were called for, and now you carry that burden. You're living double standards, you're living double thing, you're an overachiever. Certain things that should have been done in your family were not done accordingly. So the curses come as a result of undealt with issues. How do we deal with it going forward? Who are you? Go back. Find out who is your great-great-great-grandfather and what they did. Find out who your grandmother was. You know, a lot of people would say, hey, my great-grandmother was a great cook. And today I dream of herbs, for example. Right? By the way, just an insight, people who are great cooks are healers. Because by dealing with food, it means you've got the inherent gift of dealing with herbs. So a herb is an organic plant that was created in the earth, part of the ecosystem. And it then, when you dream about it, you are assigned to say, this can be used to heal. For example, garlic and ginger, natural antibiotic to cure flu, you know. You find your salt, okay, as a natural medicine to help with your teeth, you know, toothaches. You find your cranberries that deal with your cervical system. So all these things are crops, all these things are natural, right? So if you have a gift of cooking, creation, herbs, you are a healer, right? If you are an architect, you're fascinated about drawing, it goes back to the book of, Genesis, where we look at Noah building an ark and designing an ark. Architecture comes from there. We look at the book of Leviticus, your nutritionalists, guys that deal with your dietitians, guys that deal with health come from Leviticus, because that's where we are told this is what you should eat, this is what's not good for you. For example, pork is not good for us because anything that a pig eats, it doesn't excrete. So you are basically eating everything that particular pork or pig has eaten. Even prawns are assigned to clean algae in the ocean. So Rona, we pose more Instagram and take pictures. Prawns, you know what I'm saying? And you don't know, you are eating all the algae that comes from there. So Leviticus speaks about that. We look at the book of Psalms where our worshippers, people who are artists, people who are musicians come from the book of Psalms. You look at the book of Matthew, the study of accountancy, the Levites who were tax collectors, our accountants, our auditors come from there. So we are shaped and formed by the scripture that we choose to believe in. So for me, what is the scripture in your life? And how are you linked to that? And how can you use scripture, belief system? How can you use your belief and your faith in God to then change things that have happened in your lineage, to change the curses that have happened in your lineage? How could you? We need more Africans, we need more women, we need more men to take authority in their families, to say, this stops and ends here with me. Because psychologically and scientifically, on this point I'm closing, what you are today is 7 generations that have happened, and who you are today, you are shaping 7 generations ahead of you. So everything that you do in action is shaping the life and the future of your great-great-grandkids. So if Thabang decides to be a drug addict, chances are Stlogolo Saka is going to be into drugs, right? But I'm also have to acknowledge that I'm 7 generations also representing the people that are behind me. So what I am today, it's my great-grandparents, it's my forefathers. You know, a lot of people would say, that's why they would come to you and say, hey, Marino, your grandfather, naleles pongo se juang, and he was very intelligent, naratas khoa, and elweno ratas khoa. You're representing 7 generations that happened, you know, before you. So we have the power to change the traumas, to deal with the triggers, so that we can be more triumphant in changing our generational linkages.
Mama Shukh, thank you so much. You know that I love you, right? And my hope and prayer is that the world will get to hear you. You speak with such authority and power. And I really hope and pray that you see, like the world, you see the world, Thabang. Because you're caring. And with what you just said, I know that there's someone out there who will hear this and start a rippling effect of changing their next generation. So thank you so much for coming on the linkage.
Thank you for such a thought-provoking topic.
And I think it's not done. Obviously, it's not done because it's a deep one. So till we meet again.
Sure.
Family and friends, thank you so much. That's it for us today. I love you and stay blessed. Bye.
Oh,